You are invited to an advance premiere of Murnau's Phantom in honor of Gerhard Hauptmann. The time, Monday, November 13, 8 p.m. The place, one of Berlin's great picture palaces, the Uferpalast am Zoo. The year, 1922. 2 tickets are enclosed. Phantom was based on a novel written by Nobel Prize-winning author Gerhard Hauptmann. After the opening credits, the writer walks toward us. But the book in his hands cannot be Phantom because it was not published in book form until 1923, a year after the film was released. The novel first appeared in installments in the popular weekly, The Berlin Illustrated, just 2 or 3 months before Murnau began work on the film. On November 20, a souvenir booklet was published for a second special screening in Breslau, where the novel takes place, as part of the official celebration of Hauptmann's 60th birthday. Actress Lil Dagover, who plays the faithful Marie, recalled in her memoirs, "The news that the great poet Gerhard Hauptmann had approved filming his novel caused a lot of excitement. Phantom was fantastically successful. Readers devoured the novel, and the Berlin Illustrated sold like hotcakes. The story takes place in Breslau, but in the film, everything about place and time was unspecified, absolutely fictional. Murnau created a magical atmosphere on the screen that blended characters and the setting together." Erich Pommer produced Phantom, but he was much more than a producer. He was a visionary film executive who worked internationally almost from the beginning of his career in 1907. He founded the Decla Film Company, then merged with Bioscope. And during the period Phantom was being made, Pommer negotiated a merger with a giant film studio conglomerate known as UFA, where he became one of the most important decision-makers. Decla had produced the landmark expressionist film, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, in 1919. And Pommer had worked with top writer Thea von Harbu and her future husband, Fritz Lang, on some of Lang's earliest films, Half-Blood, The Spiders, Harakiri, 4 Suitors, 1 Woman, and Destiny, Lang's breakthrough film. Pommer had a gift for recognizing talent and for giving his best directors what they needed to form a creative team with the most talented cameramen, art directors, and writers. Murnau's alliance with Pommer changed his career. He had worked with Pommer the year before on The Haunted Castle, but Phantom was a more ambitious film. Then he worked with Pommer and von Harbu on the lost film, The Expulsion, and Murnau's only comedy, The Finances of the Grand Duke. When Pommer became head of production at Babelsberg after the UFA merger, Murnau and Lang were his top directors. Murnau had everything he wanted to make the last laugh in 1924. In Phantom, the expressionist influence from Caligari was still present, but in its strongest parts, Murnau demonstrated the primacy of visuals over story. He used special optical effects sparingly, and in an unpredictable way. Each one is achieved differently, thought through for cinematic effect. In 1922, even Pommer had to rein in his ambitions. Runaway inflation was overtaking the German economy. Murnau began Phantom in May. In July, he had an operation for a kidney stone and went to a sanitarium to recover. Pommer wrote to him in August in response to a telegram from Murnau about resuming work in September. Murnau had asked Pommer to send him his assistant, Hermann Bing, and art director, Hermann Warm. "Dear Mr. Murnau, I am pleased to learn that you have recovered enough that we can begin shooting on the morning of September 4. But I disagree about sending Mr. Bing and Warm to you. That would mean an unnecessary waste of money. Everything is ready. Discussions on September 1, 2, and 3 will be enough to assure a smooth production schedule. Besides, Warm is busy rebuilding the Breslau city set, and he cannot leave Berlin. Bad weather destroyed a lot of it. The reconstruction is difficult and costly. Things have changed in the last few months. From now on, production will have to be very efficient. We have to economize on everything, on time to save actors' salaries, and especially on film stock. We all have to adapt to complete Phantom and make adjustments on the films after that. because the funds needed for film production in Germany cannot be obtained now, even with support from the major banks. I hope you will spend the days until September 1 convalescing. With best regards, Erich Palmer. Hermann Warm's screen credit reads architect, as was common in German film at the time. Warm had worked on Caligari, Lang's Destiny, and many other German classics. In the mid-60s, he reconstructed a model of the glass studio where Caligari was shot, a set from Dreyer's The Passion of Joan of Arc, and 2 models from Phantom. Warm also redrafted a technical drawing for a set for Phantom meant to give the impression that a man's mind was going out of control. He described the nightclub delirium image. Some sets were meant to express the strange condition into which the actor had fallen because of psychological and real experiences, as if everything around him is turning, swaying, that shadows are chasing him. I remember the nightclub quite well. An alcove was built separately for special effects. The walls were plywood, with openings cut into them shaped like waves that went down the walls in circles. The openings were backed with transparent material and lit from behind by a series of lights that went on one after the other, moving downward. The pattern matched the decoration on the nightclub walls. The great technical effect required for special effects like this is not noticeable to the viewer, and it must not be. The press usually credits these effects to the cinematographer. We had to set up a series of delirium scenes, so they could not be too expensive. For this shot, I took a pair of wagon wheels and turned them on end, with the axle pointed up. I put wooden platforms on the top and bottom wheels. Only the top one could be turned. 2 stagehands kneeled between the wheels and rotated the upper platform at the desired speed. The trap that extended below the floor had springs fitted with cushions. This structure was built in the studio above the trap. The camera was set up to shoot the nightclub alcove across from the actor at the table. At a signal, the platform began to rotate and move downward quickly into darkness, while the camera panned down with it and faded into the next delirium image. Architect Hermann Warm. The double is a favorite element in German silent cinema, following the tradition of German romantic literature. A man who loses his shadow, a man whose mirror image takes on a life of its own, and the horrifying sensation when the man encounters his own double. Freud called this effect the uncanny. Phantom is organized around this theme, especially the destructiveness of the double, how it is internalized and breaks down an independent sense of self and stability. In Phantom, the double is a woman, or else it is 2 women who are merged in the mind of the main character, the impoverished daydreamer and poet, Lawrence Labota. The cover of this program shows the woman as the powerful character she is, although we never see this image in the film. She holds a mask, as if she controls her own disguise. In Phantom, one actress, Leah Diputi, plays a double role, the wealthy Veronica and Melita, who traps Lawrence with her remarkable likeness to Veronica. Murnau shows us this doubling the first time Lawrence sees Melita through a series of interdissolving images, as if his mind might be dissolving at the same time. Phantom has a framing story typical of German silent cinema. The prologue and epilogue take place in a spacious home outside the city. The main story takes place in a city that becomes subjectivized from Lawrence's point of view after Veronica's carriage runs him down and he falls unconscious. When he revives, obsession takes hold of him. As Lawrence awakes, Veronica stares into his eyes like a hypnotist. Under this spell, he arises slowly, hesitates, and then runs after her carriage. Finally, he reaches her home, but he is not allowed to see her. Thereafter, his mind is dominated by this fantastic apparition, and by her double, Melita, a gold digger who drives him to ruin. Labota recreates the shattering experience again and again in mental images. He runs after the carriage as fast as he can but he can never reach it. Lawrence hallucinates this fatal encounter 3 times. Each time, Murnau's visualization is different. Each marks a stage in Lawrence's deterioration. The first repetition is closest to the way that waking dreams of dread are externalized in the expressionist style of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. The city is a painted backdrop, not even faintly realistic. Flickering lights, exaggerated perspective, but nothing in Caligari is as cinematic as the carriage that appears out of a black void heading straight toward us. This page from the script corresponds to that first hallucination. An ordinary city street, yet it seems like a street in a dream. Nothing is natural and clear, other than the 2 things that matter. Veronica's horses pulling her carriage, with the Russian greyhound jumping around them, racing down the long street, and Lawrence Loboda chasing them. Murnau left out the greyhound, and other things too, like people who turn toward Lawrence, laughing, their faces distorted. Murnau noted how the scene should be visualized. The image starts out blurry, out of focus. Street with heavy shadows. The lower part of the image is completely dark. The opposite row of houses is dark below. Masked the sky, only the gables of the houses are lit. Lawrence's second flashback of the carriage incident corresponds to Freud's explanation of the compulsion to repeat and its relationship to the death drive. Lawrence cannot control these visions. They control him. The last replay of the scene with the carriage is the most brutal. The carriage is a ghostly superimposition that comes upon Lawrence from behind and runs right over him. Nonetheless, he staggers to his feet and runs after it. In vain. Lawrence's experience unleashes other mental flashes. Here, an imaginary ceremony at City Hall seems like a wedding with Veronica. His final mental collapse is represented by the city falling down on him. Ghostly buildings tilt over, about to crush him as he runs. Hermann Warm built a model in the 60s to show how these famous visualizations had been achieved. He described what he had done for Lottie Eisner's book on Murnau. People often wonder how we managed to produce certain nightmare visions, like the tottering day in Phantom. Of course, we had to use special effects with elaborate techniques. I went with Murnau to Breslau to see the places Hauptmann described in his novel. But we realized we would have to find other sources of inspiration for the exteriors that were built in the studios at Babelsberg. I wanted to avoid realism, but I used a vague memory of a street in Breslau. The left side had real houses built with cheap materials. The right side was fake, gabled plywood facades mounted on rails that sloped, so they could move faster and faster. We put powerful arc lights to the right of the moving facades to throw their shadows across the street. We succeeded in making it look like the shadows of the houses were pursuing the young man as he ran after the carriage. The passive man, the aggressive woman, are staples of German cinema of the 20s and early 30s. Murnau, in Phantom, as he had done just before for Nosferatu, created mental images identified with specific characters, such as Lawrence. But they spill over into the outside world. The city becomes unstable, nature looks unnatural, and daydream is hard to separate from hallucination or reality. The city collapsing on Lawrence is one of the strongest moments in silent cinema. Only the framing story allows him to escape this world of images that has reduced him to a double no one recognizes. Except for Marie and her father, steadfast characters who lack the wild beauty and intensity of Lawrence's mental visions.